Therapy Geeks, a podcast by Luke McGibbon and Louise Taylor.
And we're recording.
Fun.
Hello. Should we do the chime?
Right.
Should we do the little
Hi,
chime?
how are you?
It's kind of hard to do the chime when we're out of sync, I suppose. For viewers, there's a delay between the two of us. It's about 4 seconds long. So there's going to be that, and I'm sure you've all been doing a lot of Zoom meetings at home. You understand this. There's going to be a lot of in some I'll interrupt Louise, and then I'll go, oh my god, sorry, and then a very long 5 seconds will pass before one of us goes, no, you go ahead. Which, yeah, you've probably been having a lot of that, right? This is the way of things now.
Here we can have a go at our therapy geeks, our little jingle.
Aye, okay.
Yeah.
If you go first, I'll wait about 3 seconds, and hopefully, yeah. Okay, you go first, and I'll.
Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Therapy geeks.
And that worked for me, but that's because I'm recording on my end. Yeah, spot on. Good. Okay, little choir.
Well done. So.
Yes. So, where do we start? It's a bit of a wild time, isn't it? There's obviously, I think we're going to be talking about the pandemic in this episode, aren't we? How that relates to the world.
The pandemic.
Yeah. See, there's that 4 second delay
okay.
there.
So yeah, the pandemic. Where do you start with a global pandemic?
At home, I guess.
Yes. So that was what we were thinking, what things will it bring up for people?
Yeah. And the thing is, it does touch every aspect of a life, doesn't it? There's nobody who's completely untouched by this.
Yeah.
I think there's people like yourself and myself who are less touched by it. Because you're saying yourself, you home educate already and you live out in the countryside. I'm a key worker, so not really a huge amount has changed in my schedule other than it's harder to do some shops, that's about it.
Yeah.
But
But it's hard, it's hard if you're you're going to be impacted if you're a social being and you're aware of you can't ignore the fact the streets are emptier. You can't ignore the fact that legislation is changing. The way that we are connecting with others is going to change. As time's gone on, even as the days go on, there's more and more restrictions that are impacting the way many people live.
Yeah.
So as you say, for you and me, our lives are, my life's quite alternative, so it seems like I'm ahead of the game in terms of the home educating and all that there, and that's don't want to brag. But for you, your key work hasn't changed. Your comedy night has stopped.
Yes, that's stopped for the time being. So for the moment, I'm not a comedian. I'm just a counsellor and support worker, which is, it's actually was kind of freeing because it's difficult wearing so many hats. You know what I mean? It's better just to be two things, is what I'm saying, rather than being 3 or 4. But yeah, well, you were talking about home education. We were talking about that earlier. About what tips do you have for people who are having to do that at home right now?
Yes, my thoughts are with you. It's not easy. It's not easy. And yeah, it's interesting, though it's doable, and I think a lot of the stress may come from people's expectations of what they should be doing, and possibly some of their limiting beliefs around their ability to educate their children, or their children to be educated outside of normal educational settings.
That bubble.
So I would say try to just flow with it and don't panic.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
It's not This is not normal.
This is not normal. Yeah, I mean, like,
Go
and
for
like you
it.
were saying about the flow, I guess, like, the flow itself is your child, really, isn't it? You're saying to let the child sort
Mm.
of lead you in what they're passionate about, what they're interested in.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. And also the lesson you were talking about earlier, that
Yes.
you don't have
You
actual
keep cutting
control over
out. Can you
your child.
hear me?
Yeah, no, I can hear you. I can hear you. You're going in slow motion now,
Oh,
though.
keep. Yeah.
Oh, that's you now.
Yeah.
You were saying about not having actual control over your child, like, because nobody
Yeah.
does really.
Well, it depends on whether you buy into the whole notion, like, of coercive control. I try and think in terms of guiding, supporting, nurturing, and having faith in them as people, that, you know, that they will learn and they will develop and grow, and that they will ultimately, probably, they'll make mistakes because they're people. And also, but ultimately, I think that in terms of their ability to choose and decide for themselves, like, you have a duty of care, to protect children, and I take that very seriously. But the more I've worked with children, the more I've learned about child development phases and all that, the more I think that, you know, children have a lot to teach us. And, you know, I see it in similar terms to counseling. It's like holding space for them. And it's not easy to hold space for your children. Like, they're too close. They trigger you and they push your buttons. But holding space for them while they grow and learn, that's what I try to do. Believe me, I get it wrong. And my God, it can be so exhausting. But this is not home education. What's happening now is an emergency situation. It's been forced on people that they have their children at home and they have to educate them. But this is not what home education that's elective looks like. So that's why I think people need to try not to panic too much. But yeah, it isn't easy. But for us, it works as a family.
Yeah. Well, you're saying then that the situation itself is quite coercive at the minute, and so the challenge is to try and not go with that flow, I guess. That not to treat it as being stuck in there with your kids. Maybe it's more like your kids are stuck in there with you, but yeah, to let the child lead, and yeah, I like that. I mean, I can't remember too much about what it was like to be a child, which is bad, I think, for a counselor. But like,
Yeah.
I think that's the sort of situation I would like, because there is a sort of feeling of anarchy, and as a parent, you can't really get rid of that feeling of anarchy, because it's the way the world currently is at the minute. It's a little chaotic. But what you can do is sort of, you can integrate that rather than deny it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I love what you just said about anarchy.
Aye.
Like, what is your understanding of anarchy?
Huh. Well, I mean, like, there's the common phrase, but there's also like the political ideology. I guess like the common phrase just sort of means that um, everything's sort of going crazy and there's no structure for anything at all. And then the political ideology is everything's wonderful and there's no structure for anything at all, I guess.
Absolutely. So for some people, this anarchy will be it'll fit. They'll be like, this is great. This is fine. This works for me. But for other people, where structure and routine and discipline and things being exactly in their place, this will be incredibly uncomfortable.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the things that kept me quite sane in work was that I created a very I created a structure, because like normally since it's support work for adults with learning difficulties, normally it would be like Monday you go to this activity, and Tuesday you go to this activity, Wednesday you go to this activity, and of course all those activities are cancelled right now. Yeah, so like it's more like on Monday we do something that I've made up basically. Like on Monday we do this art activity, and then like on Monday afternoon you lift some weights in the living room. On Monday evening you go for a walk, and like I did that with the people I support, but I've also started doing that with myself. So like giving myself times to wake up, giving myself something to do for that day. And yeah, because like, I mean, what you need to get you through this is a sense of purpose. And I think I think that's kind of what people are trying to do when they're saying like staying at home saves lives, which it is. And that is purposeful on its own. But also people like to feel like they're accomplishing something by doing something as much as they want to accomplish something by not doing something. Yeah, people like to be busy, is what I'm saying.
Busy. Yeah, they like to be busy, but I like what you say about purpose. Because like what's the one that you've referred to a few times, the man's search of meaning?
Oh yeah, Frankl. Viktor Frankl, yeah.
Frankl.
His big thing was that like what people want and need more than anything is to have a life that's meaningful. To be but he also said that you can create it essentially, and you decide what you want your life to be about in many ways. Like some of the things he said were actually kind of like CBT more than anything. He said like between each moment and action there's a space where a person can choose what to be, and he said that because he was a survivor of he was a survivor of the Holocaust. He was in like a concentration camp, and he said that like there were still people who chose to help and chose to share in those moments. Like they were given a very tiny amount of bread, and he says there were people who would go to other huts and give some of their bread to the people who were ill. And he said, that is the last freedom. That's the one thing they can't take away from you, is the ability to choose what sort of person you are, from moment to moment.
Oh, isn't that amazing though?
Yeah, it's class.
I think that's amazing.
And like you're making these choices whether you choose to or not. Like the people who have loudly been denigrated for like going to the beach a week ago, or like having like a party where they're all in close proximity and things like that. Like they don't think they're doing it, but they are kind of choosing to be a certain kind of person. And what's sad is they probably wouldn't even like that sort of person if they met them. But that's just me. Yeah.
Well, but I agree. But I don't think a lot of people do actually particularly like themselves. Well, or they avoid themselves. They avoid looking and doing the work.
Aye, let's have a party so I don't have to look in the mirror, basically. Yeah.
Let's get drunk. Let's stay busy so I don't have to actually sit and think, or sit and reflect, or just be, just to sit with yourself. Because that is like a lot of it is distractions. Distract. You look at what's happened with the pandemic, and like it's not funny, but it is kind of, it's like off licenses are not essential businesses. Then the public reacted. Okay, off licenses are essential businesses. And what's that about?
It's like it makes you sort of go, well, it's made everyone, I think, reassess things. Like for example, like are off licenses essential? Probably for some people, yeah. Like in some stages of alcoholism, you literally need it to survive. But also, I think there's a need for leisure, I suppose. And yeah, it is difficult. It's a hard one to pin down. I really think it should just be left up to like individual staff in off licenses. I saw I saw a post somewhere from somebody who worked in a wine mark. He didn't specify which one because obviously he would have got fired, but he was just saying like it was whenever they were still open, and he was saying like it's ridiculous that we're still open. There are cramped conditions. Nobody's doing social distancing. There's about 20 people in the shop at a time. People are being rude. That's the big one. People are being rude, and You know, there's no sick pay if I want to be safe and go and self-isolate for a while. And like, so to that person, I imagine like the Weimar's closing is great. Like that's a person who's able to stay
Yeah.
home with his family and be safe for the time being. And to that person, alcohol didn't seem essential. Um, but you know, then you think of like, I'm sure you've worked with people with like alcoholism before, and uh, you know, forcing somebody to stay off drink can kill people for one thing, but that's extreme cases. But in other cases, it's just ineffective, and it's really gonna hurt some people as well. It's yeah, but then on a smaller level, I go to the shops now, and you know, you queue for an extra 20 minutes, and you get inside, and you go, is this really essential? You know, is this packet of crisps essential? You know, and
Yeah.
uh,
This Maltesers are essential.
yeah, yeah, it sort of makes you
But it
reassess.
does. It makes you question what is essential and what isn't.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, and like, I mean, that's with food, but then you sort of
Keep
go in.
frozen, are we?
Am I frozen? Well, you're grand. You're grand for me. I'm recording, so it's all right in a sense. Like, but and then it makes you sort of go, well, what parts of my life are essential as well? Like, what in this house do I
Oh, that's
really
good.
need? Yeah, like,
You cut in and out a bit, but it's okay.
okay. Yeah, and then you could probably go even further down and say, what of my which of one of my thoughts are essential? You know, do I need to be worrying about whether or not I'm ugly right now? You know, do I need to be worrying about whether or not I'm
God,
fat right now? But
I'm closing the door because I can hear my cat's about to come in, and I'm worried about her going on in front and sabotaging this Zoom meeting.
yeah,
You met my cat; she's not to be messed with.
no, no, yeah,
But yes, like that's exactly it. Like what's essential, and for a lot of people, their lives and what they miss. Like for me, you know, my walk a day, my in nature,
mm,
I find is that, like I feel so much better
mm,
after spending time in nature. And then with the restrictions, I'm keeping going, are they going to stop me going? Because I live in the middle of the country and I live very close to, one of the reasons I moved here was because of how close there was so many beautiful walks.
yeah,
But I have noticed that in the last few weeks, as things have developed, at the weekends, I can't even go to those walks. They're too busy. Whereas,
yeah,
you know, and I'm getting there and there's too many cars in the car park. And I'm like, so then I go, I'll stay around my house, or I'll go to the really muddy ones where nobody hardly ever goes, the really muddy walks. But I don't know if I'm going to be allowed to do that. You know, I don't know how much more, like these restrictions are going to get, but I do feel a little bit, this is where I have to be honest, a little bit like, screw you people, this is my, these are my walks.
yeah.
You're not allowed here.
Yeah, where were you
You know what I
guys
mean?
before the plague? You know, what happened?
Yeah. Oh yeah, you all like nature now. Oh yeah. You know, but also the other thing is, you know, oh yeah, it's all very well, and that's the other thing, the amount of runners. I've never, and there's a couple of the usual suspects, like people I would have seen quite a lot, and we socially distance and talk about the fact that in the last few weeks, loads of people just come out of the woodwork.
Yeah.
But one of the other things, and this is where I have to look at myself because this is quite triggering for me, is the amount of rubbish that they're now leaving in these places. So that, like, you're using nature, but you have no respect. And that kind of makes me really sad. And if I'm honest, angry.
Yeah.
Like you come now when your restrictions are in, and it's the rubbish, the disregard for the spaces that I find really hard. So, you know, for this pandemic, it is triggering for people. But for me, the triggering thing is people coming out to abuse places that I may lose contact with because of their behavior.
I mean,
Yeah,
that makes.
See what I mean?
Yeah, like I can imagine. Actually, I'd be pretty pissed as well. Like, but it's kind of like being into a band before they were cool, you know. Except the band is a park, and suddenly it's very popular, and people are just kind of ruining it. And yeah, it's interesting. Where do you think this comes from as well? The increase in the amount of people being outside, because in a way, it's kind of what we've wanted for years. It's obviously an imperfect version of that, as you say, because it's people being outside more, but not in a particularly respectful way. But like, do you think it's because they shouldn't be out as much that they're out more, or is it, I don't know, like these boundaries?
Well, this is it. You start to sometimes appreciate things that you have taken for granted, and you start to maybe panic because you're kind of like, oh, I'm allowed to do this, so I'll do it, even though you were allowed to do it a few months ago. You didn't do it, but now the government have said you're allowed your walk a day. They're like, frig it, you know, the runner, like the people are, and that's where, like, if you look at, was it Sports Direct?
Oh,
their sales were flying.
yeah.
You know, because of like jogging, leisure wear, exercise, and they were like, we're essential service because they're all ready to start, getting fit.
Aye.
Whereas they could get fit before it. Why did it all of a sudden? And I know that too. Like, if somebody says you don't think about chocolate, what do you think about?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So you start thinking about the things that you're possibly going to lose, maybe.
I think as well, yeah, it's like you're saying, there's a threat, for one thing, like, and I don't even necessarily mean from the government that you can only go out once a day or whatever. I mean, like, there's a threat to your life. Like, I don't know about like, I've got asthma, so I started jogging a few weeks ago, like, because they say I'm probably going to get it. Everyone's probably going to get it. So what's it, 60 to 80% will probably get it by the end of it. Like, so, I'm probably going to catch it at some point. So I need my body to be prepared. So I sort of get people suddenly taking up sports. But then I guess also there's like an existential threat, and you can exercise for your anxiety as well. That, like, I can't imagine the amount of death anxiety that's going about right now as well. Like, Yalom said that death anxiety is involved in basically every therapeutic case he's ever worked with, like, on some level or other. That, well, because the fear of death, he said, was the fear of like an unfully lived life, really.
Yes. Yeah, and he's got a new book out.
He does.
Did you see that post today?
No, what?
His
No.
wife and him co-wrote a book. She got she had cancer, and then it's about death. And he's just recently come out with it. She died a few months ago. I think she died in November, and he's been writing. They co-wrote it, and then he's been writing about grieving when the loss of a partner. Like, God, that man is incredible. Like, he just shares his wounds. But that's the other thing. Like, I'm an ecotherapist. This is where dissonance and pandemic, and it brings up loads of things. And I feel like, in terms of mental health and self-care, like, this is fine. This is an okay time for me. But it is bringing up stuff, because my job is connecting people with nature. But then watching how people are connecting with nature is like this, because my research is all about nature and mental health.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, get out, enjoy, a walk a day. And now I'm like, whoa, not like that.
Yeah. So you're saying, like, nature.
So it's my control. What?
You're saying that connecting with nature isn't as simple as just hitting the park. Basically, it's done in a way we actually have to connect with it. You can't just sort of be in it.
But this is it. Like, is that true, or is that me projecting my controlling beliefs about nature and how you should do things?
Well, I think you're probably right. Like, I don't think anything's ever as simple as just go do. Like, there's more to it. Otherwise, you could just tell somebody to go for a jog when they're depressed, and they'll be better. Like, and you know, obviously that does help, but like it's obviously a bit more complex than just go do something. Like, there's also, I mean, how do you connect with anything? How do you
How do you?
you know? I guess, yeah. I mean, you probably have to take out the headphones for one thing, and feel. I don't know. I'm trying not to give too mushy a therapist answer, but I suppose that's what it's all about, isn't it? Yeah, I think you have to go out and actually sort of feel something, and um, try and connect with yourself for a second as well, and trying to think less for a little bit. I don't know, but yeah, like connecting with nature.
Just be.
Yeah. But you know, I'm sure all the people that need to hear that will not like that answer, is all I'm thinking, you know. But it's you can't really speak in the same
But you
language.
have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So you have to start, like, if you are not connected with nature in any way, and you're thinking, I might be a bit interested, I might like to, you can't just go full wallop into, you know, you can't go full wallop. I wouldn't recommend you going, like, I'm going to spend a week in the mountains camping.
Yeah.
If you're, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would say, like, sit and watch the sky for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Even if you had good music on, watching the clouds for 5 minutes, that could be the start.
That's a good idea.
Gently, and that, you know what I mean? That's you connecting.
Yeah.
But if for them, the headphones, if you say to people, no headphones, no, and it feels like more of a controlling thing, they'll not want to engage. Or if it's like gently, oh, I'm interested, well then, like, dip your toe into different things, that's better. Because in my research, my main supervisor, who's my primary supervisor at Queen's, like, it's hilarious that we've been paired up together. He has no interest in nature. None.
Okay.
Doesn't feel a connection at all.
Wow, bloody hell. Like, yeah, I mean, does that work for you though? Does that help to have that opposite?
Yes, it really, really does. Because he challenges me, because in my world, it's a no-brainer. So if he was like the same as me, going, yeah, it's a no-brainer, this works, well then I wouldn't probably find the nuances, I wouldn't find the complexities, and I would be too like, yeah, this is working. If it doesn't work for you, then there's something, this is, you know, it's going to work. Whereas he's saying, actually, why would most people don't care? And that actually makes me step it up.
Yeah.
That makes me, the research to be, I'm going for more objectivity. I'm looking and thinking, right, why are people not connected? Why do some people not get this? Because for the people who do get it, it's really good for their mental health. But there's a lot of people who just don't. So that's why I find, as my research has gone on, I've completely changed the way I look at it. I've gone, okay, there's a lot of people like me, and there's a lot of people who are not in any way like me, and they're getting nothing from this connection. And that's why I'm like, why are they, what is it? And I think what's coming up is their childhood. Their childhood experiences are very important in determining whether or not nature is beneficial for their mental health.
Yeah, like, I guess you know, object relations, like your relationship with any kind of concept like that is sort of formed at a young age, and yeah, whether or not somebody sees like the outside world as like just the material, or as something representing more, it's kind of, I guess it's about wonder, isn't it? I feel like you need to teach your kid wonder about being outside.
Yeah.
And that's hard, you know.
But wonder about life,
Yeah.
not just being outside.
Yeah.
But yes, that comes up very strongly in nature. A lot of people connected with nature would have a wonder about the world, and they would get a lot of joy from very simple things, events. and that has come up, that sense of magic in the world.
Yeah. Wow, nice. We were talking about we were talking about how the pandemic related to quite a few things before this, weren't we? Like there was we wrote grief, romance, addiction, dependency. I feel like that dependency thing, like I'd be interested to see the stats after this to see how many people maybe gained weight or lost weight during this, because obviously our lives are now a bit more sedentary, and you know sometimes you can eat out of boredom, but also you know when you're at the shops and you have to think of essentials, are you going to buy like a chalk ice? You know what I mean? Like I'd be interested. More likely like that people probably gained weight than lost weight, but it'd be interesting because I feel like you know people, like we're saying earlier, are panicking about this and probably want to be physically fit in case they catch it, so they increase their chances of living. Like quite a few of the people supposedly who have died who are like not old or don't have existing conditions, where they've been told it's been said that most of those ones have been like overweight basically, which is, you know, that's a horrible thing to hear for somebody like me who is literally overweight, you know. So I'd be keen to see changes.
Well, this is it, but it's going to bring up so many issues for people in terms of their relationship with food, their relationship with themselves. Why are they consuming food? Why are they eating more? Like for me, yeah, I'm eating more, but I'm not too worried.
Yeah.
And it's not something that I'm really panicking about because we're still at the very early days of this. So do you know what? And I'm going to show you. You know what? If this makes life a little bit more enjoyable, I'm going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
No, you know what I mean? I'm going to, and I've got my breakaways and the teasers, but I think I'm going to the shops for my essential items. But while I'm there, I'm like, well, hello.
Yeah.
You'll do nicely when I'm watching a film.
Yeah.
You know, I'm watching Netflix. I'll enjoy this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yes, there's a fear that you're going to put on a lot of weight or your life's going to... all I know is, I think we've talked about this before, when I was part of Weight Watchers and Slimming World and all, I was obsessed with food. And I didn't think it was particularly healthy, but I was losing weight. So it was going well. Whereas now I kind of try and have a bit more of a softer relationship with food, not panicky. Control. I think it's all about control, to be honest.
Have you heard of intuitive eating?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah. There's the concept called like intuitive eating, which
I think a lot of people...
Sorry. I've only read a wee bit about it, but it's basically like the concept is it's kind of like mindfulness, but it's a bit more. I think it's about like tuning into your body's hunger cues and letting your body decide what you want to eat and when. I've only read a bit about it there. Like Sarah gave me a book called Just Eat It, which is great, you know, and I feel like it's probably a good time for something like that, just let your body tell you what you're hungry for and when, rather than sort of going, oh, I need to lose weight and I need to do this and I need to do that, you know, like that's like kind of having a structure forced upon you.
Yes. But actually, right, look, the word need, what do we actually need to do?
What, to stay sane or just in general? What do we need?
What do we actually need to do in this time? Like, what do we need to do? And this is where the idea of what's essential, what's not, what do we need, what do we not? So I need to pay my rent.
Yeah.
I need to keep my house, give food, look after my dog. Like, so my dependents are my dogs, my pets, So the dogs and the cat and the 2 children, right? Which I co-parent with my ex-partner, right? So I need to be able to provide for them.
Yeah.
So am I able to? So that's like Maslow's triangle. So I've got my income coming in from research. So that's me sorted unless I completely mess it up, until 2021. So have I got my rent paid? Have I got my bills paid? Have I got, are my kids, my pets okay, right?
Yeah.
So then that's the basic. So I need to be fed, look at, right. What else do you need? You need a rest.
Yeah.
You need sleep.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what else do you need? Once you've got the basics, then you can start thinking about how you can do but those basic needs need to be met.
Absolutely.
Before you can do anything else.
Let's talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, because I feel like that's pretty appropriate to the current situation. I hadn't even really thought of that. Like, so yeah, Maslow said that each human being has a certain amount of needs in terms of, like, it's a ascending order, and then at the top of it is sort of self-actualization, which is just reaching your potential, which is sort of where people are when they're being creative, really. And at the very bottom level is, the physiological needs, like, so it's food, water, warmth, rest, like you're saying. The second one's safety needs, so that's like a roof over your head, and like you're saying, is the 2 basic ones. And then the third ones are like belongingness and love, so it's like intimate friendship, friends, relationships. And you can get that out of a dog if you're not near people, but if you are,
Absolutely.
Yeah, like, you're never truly alone with a pet, I think. And then the next one is theme needs, so prestige and feeling of accomplishment. And I think, like, I think there's a move to try and make people feel like that by staying in, to encourage staying in. And I think that's a great idea. I don't know if it'll be successful, because I think people also feel the need to be actively doing something as well. But staying in is like the most, giving thing you can do right now. And then just above that is self-actualization. So, like, yeah, achieving one's full potential, doing creative things, basically. Yeah, like, and I guess we were talking about structure earlier, but funny, I don't see structure on that at all. For some people, like myself, it's absolutely essential. But then for some people,
yes,
busyness is avoidance, like you were saying.
but it's funny because at the minute I am trying to get a lot more structure to get things done, because like my life would be quite laissez-faire, is it, or just like flow, but at the minute I'm like, right, okay, in the morning, get up, like the dogs need out, make sure kids, everybody's okay, dogs out, chill, cup of tea, feed the dogs, then have a lovely shower, because I love water. I love my shower sorts me out, and I need to feel that every day. That for me is very important. Then I try get for my good walk, and then I'm trying to get like the research, because the research at the minute I can only do small amounts of it because of my concentration span, whereas before I could maybe do hours in the trot. Now I can't. So that structure at the minute is helping me to kind of get back into, I suppose, the way it was before this, because this has impacted on me, but maybe not as much as other people. But like, it's hard because we can't go to Queen's. Queen's was one of the first to shut down. Everything's been changed online for these meetings. And, in terms of the way I collected my research, I had to get ethics approval, and that whole had to go through. So I was really fortunate, but it was still really quite uncertain, and it was still quite stressful. And I'm aware it wasn't as stressful as it is for a lot of other people. But that meant that actually I gravitated towards a little bit more of a structure. Now, this is where I may have developed the structure, because what's become very clear to me at the minute, because in terms of maybe it's shock, collective shock, I don't know, but my naps.
Oh yeah,
Napping.
I've heard about yeah, a lot of napping.
Napping. Oh, that's why I think I've become more structured, because I now factor in that nap, which is actually keeping, like, I think it's the middle point of the whole existence of everything else. It's just like so important. And that nap in my routine, as well as all the other things, is helping for things to keep ticking along in a really, really, it's a crazy time.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Yeah.
We're in a pandemic.
Aye.
I've never lived through a pandemic. I'm 41.
Yeah. Nobody has. There hasn't been a pandemic in 101 years, which is wild. Like, and you know, it's going quite well. Like, I know it feels like the world's collapsing, but like the last pandemic, I think 6 million people died. It was the Spanish flu. Hang on, I'm going to Google it just as it says. But this was like in 1918 or something, and like that was disastrous. It was massive because there just wasn't the same kind of hygiene measures, or like it infected 500 million people, which was about a quarter of the world's population at the time. The death toll estimated to have been anywhere from 17 million to 50 million, possibly as high as 100 million, which is, you know, like, so in terms of pandemic, it's good okay. Like, I know it seems horrible, but it's okay. Like, it's just the way that lives are. Makes people feel worse. That it's
But
not
it's like you have to be very, very gentle, because this is the start, and some people have been impacted by this so much. They have lost loved ones, and it's been in their face, and they couldn't avoid it, and their fear will be heightened. And you know what? We feel like this pandemic's okay, but that's our perspective, and that we would not feel like that if we were on the front line, you know, as in dealing with the ICUs. And this is why it's so important that we get our information and be aware that in a pandemic, you are dealing with millions and millions of people processing this event in each of their truly unique ways. So, you know what I mean? Like, for me, it doesn't feel like something that I'm really, really terrified of. I feel very grateful, because my life means that me and my family, you know, for the most part, are quite protected. Whereas if I was married to a GP, or married to a nurse who worked in ICU, or a nurse who worked in any of the hospitals, would I feel like this? No, I would probably feel anxious, scared, at points absolutely terrified. You know, so that's another thing. Like, how do you talk about mental health whenever everybody's going to be going through such different things at this point in time?
This is it as well. It's like, because I think we all go completely up and down. I don't think anyone's like having a completely wonderful time all around, but I find that, you know, it makes me look at the people in my life, particularly the vulnerable ones, with a sort of newfound appreciation. Like, you often hear this whenever somebody like passes away. You know, people go, "I wish I'd spent more time with them," or "I wish I appreciated them more." And it's like, now you can appreciate them more. Now you have this wake up call without necessarily the consequence of someone passing on, which is like, this is good, you know. Like, I was going to say hold your loved ones close, but don't hold them 6 feet away. But like, you know, on a more emotional level, like, this is your chance. Like, and I think sometimes when I go into work as well, like, there's a very real possibility of the people I'm looking after, or maybe even the clients that I'm working with in counselling. Like, there's a real possibility of them dying, and it makes me work harder, and it makes me care more, because this is it. Relationships are all we have, and they're more fragile than we think.
Yeah.
Mm.
And they're all temporary.
Oh yeah, completely. Yeah, that's a very Buddhist thing to say, isn't it, about impermanence and things like that. Yeah, I was thinking of.
Yeah, I've been told, I think, in a very Buddhist way quite a lot recently. But I don't know, I think it's the philosophies, all the different, the amalgamation of a lot of the research and the different philosophies. But like, Buddhists, Buddhists, there's a lot to learn from Buddhists. They're very peaceful people. They can find calm in the most chaotic circumstances.
Yeah, they're great. Particularly right now, I feel there's like a few Buddhist websites I'm subscribed to, and they're like, the stuff they're churning out right now is, it is good. Like, I'll maybe post a few on the therapy for this. Oh yeah, it is. Wow, chef's kiss,
Oh, you got it, Buddhists. The Buddhists are coming into their own now.
I really like there's that whole famous quote where like Buddha said, like, life is suffering, and the initial translation of that is suffering, but what it actually, the word is like dukkha, and what it actually it can also translate not just to suffering but also like craving. So kind of what they were saying when they said that was that your mind is always looking for something to be fussing over, like constantly. Like, so
yeah,
if you weren't anxious about this, you'd be anxious about something else. If you weren't worried about this, something else would be going, because your mind's looking for it. Like that, and that's the suffering that the Buddha talked about. And the only way to make it go away isn't by like pushing it down or suppressing it or pretending it's not there, but just by seeing it. Like the story of the Buddha's enlightenment, he sat under this tree for 40 days and 40 nights meditating, and his suffering tried to come to him in the form of this like evil goddess called Mara. That's one of the more mystical aspects of it. But every time he saw Mara coming with like maybe like a harem of women or like a load of arrows being fired at him or whatever, he would just say, "Oh, I see you," and then that would be it. It would go away. Like, and I'm not saying just see it and it'll go away, but I'm saying that it's just like Carl Rogers saying that when I accept myself, then I change. Like when you accept things that you feel.
There is paradox.
Such a good quote, isn't it? And like when you see these things, they have less power, and I think one of the best opportunities to practice that is when you're reading the news, because it's very easy to get furious about, like, say your man from Sports Direct trying to keep people open, or fucking Richard Branson looking at bailout, which is like, what about the people who can't fuck off, mate? Like things like that. I mean, I'm not saying don't be angry. I'm just saying see it, and don't let it hurt you in that way, and you'll be able to stay.
Yeah, you kind of try and look at it for what it is, as opposed to think personally, this is an attack on us. Think, right, okay, actually a lot of what I think is coming up in the news is the complete discrimination. We're being shown the difference in how the elite are treated and the rich, and how the minions that keep them in power are treated. Without us, they are nothing. Without the everyday people and the everyday workers, they are nothing. But they have enjoyed an elitist lifestyle at our expense.
Yeah.
So I'm like this. Look at this, people. Look, of course, Boris Johnson and Prince Charles are being treated differently. This is an elitist capitalist society.
Yeah.
And of course, they're going to be getting tested for corona, while most people who actually have it aren't. Of course, that is the society we work in. That is the society that we live in, and that we fully support, all of us, without even being aware of it. We all buy into it and we all support it. And it's incredibly corrupt and unbalanced. So instead of getting angry about it, go, yeah, that's the way it is. So you can either do something about it or not.
Yeah. And then, what we'll keep this going is not doing anything as well. But I don't really have a problem with maybe like Boris Johnson or Prince Charles getting tested. Maybe Prince Charles, but like Boris Johnson, he's the head of a state, like he's the government. But like it's more like, how did Idris Elba get a test? Like he was asymptomatic as far as I'm aware. Like to me, that's like, who do you know, mate? Like that's the Idris Elba. I love Idris Elba. I love Luther, but like he's not essential in the same way.
Well, Boris Johnson is now. So before he was running the country in a really dubious, questionable fashion. Now he's running the country sick.
Yeah. From his bed as well. God, I know.
Fucking off his head, like
Yeah.
on painkillers and whatever. And he's like, yeah, just do that.
Stick him full of cocodamol and see what happens. Do you know what though? Like, I sent this to Sarah, my partner earlier. Like, or no, she was sending it to me even a few weeks ago. Like, it might actually be quite good to have an egomaniac in charge, because, like, at the end of the day, he's going to do what he thinks makes people love him the most, which is why you're seeing some like relatively sensible bits of legislation being passed, like government spending being increased, and like mortgage holidays. I think they're about to suspend rent in certain cases. I'm not sure, but like stuff that is okay, but it's definitely stuff you wouldn't expect from like a conservative government, and that's because Boris Johnson wants the UK to love him because there's a hole in his heart. But
do you think he wants the UK to love him?
I think so. Yeah, I think he's like, I think it's different perhaps to say Theresa May or David Cameron, because I think they want to be remembered well, but I think he's a bit more. They want to be remembered well, but they also want to stick within their sort of confines of their ideology. Whereas I think he's a bit more narcissistic, and he wants to be loved right now, and how that can maybe influence him to be maybe a little more left wing. I couldn't imagine David Cameron or Theresa May passing some of the measures that would have been passed the last few days. It doesn't mean I like Boris Johnson. I'm certainly never going to vote Conservative in my bloody life, but I'm just saying at least there's a certain kind of ideological flexibility that I don't think you get with the others.
I think it's panic. I just think the economy, if you do not keep keeping these people, the workers, if the people who keep the essential workers, and actually at this point in time, you're seeing who's essential in the short term, right? In the short term, in a crisis, you need your frontline staff who are dealing with the most vulnerable, the most sick in society, and you need food, right? Yeah. They're the two that come up. You need your services. So those are essential in the short term. However, in the long term, you're seeing that actually there's loads, it's a big web of essential workers. So in the short term, we can do this as an emergency response. But in the long term, for society to work, we are all, many, many layers to this are necessary, are needed.
Yeah.
And that's where I think the legislations come in, because of the numbers that have been impacted. And because you think about it, most people, when they're getting money from the government, it's not like they're shipping it out to, they're not saying, right, give me an offshore account in friggin' the Caribbean or whatever so I can avoid tax. Most of them are not that high earning. So their money is going straight back into the economy. Yeah. It's going straight back into the shops. They're not sending it out of the country. They're keeping it in the UK.
Absolutely, yeah.
So he's given these people who are very important money so that they can keep the economy ticking over.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what should have been happening for the last 10 years. But it's, better late than never, I guess, given, we don't really have any choice. He's elected, like, that's it. But yeah, here, I actually...
That's it, yeah.
Speaking of that being it.
Here, how long have we been on?
I actually don't know. It doesn't say. But
I can't remember. Here,
I'm
going to
hit stop recording in a second, and it says it saves it as an MP4 after the chat finishes.
And okay, so is there anything you'd like to say before we stop recording?
I don't know. I think I've said everything that's on my mind. I don't know. Stay safe. Obviously, wash your hands. Be mindful. Don't touch your face. Like here, the face touching thing.
I touch my face all the time.
There's a great video on a mindfulness video talking about face touching, and it's like it may seem like the most minor thing, but if you and 4 other people like don't touch your face once, like every day for a week, that's like, well, 4 times, that's like 28 times a week less opportunities for the virus to spread, so like I feel like mindfulness has a big part to play in infection control as well.
So, but I can touch my face in my house.
Well, yeah, obviously, yeah, but like, I mean, it's just better not to in general at the minute. I'm trying. There's no such thing as safe. Yeah, I think don't be afraid of looking stupid when it comes to being safe, because like the stakes are you look like you're doing a bit too much, or somebody's at risk of dying. Like it's not a choice. It's not really a choice. I would choose looking a bit stupid and washing my hands for a bit too long every time.
We're fucking comedians. We know how to look stupid, like.
I guess so. Yeah, that's true.
But that's what I mean. Like, so many people are worried about what others think of them and worried about looking stupid. And a lot of the time, I'm like, let that go. Just do what you think's the right thing to do. But yeah, that was really lovely talking to you, Therapy Geek chum.
Yeah, should we do the chime again, or?
And well, why don't we? I don't know how we're going to do it, but we'll figure it out, and we'll put up a wee post. If I do this here at the gallery and take a picture of us, you're not coming up. No. Oh, right. Do a wave so we can take a picture for. Oh no.
Here. Pause the recording as well.
Stop recording it.
No, pause it there just to take a snapshot for the page. I'm now recording again just so we can say goodbye. Thanks for listening. We'll be back.
We'll say goodbye.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening, and we'll be back hopefully before another 18 months of hiatus.
Yeah.
I don't know how long it's been this week.
Not long enough.
I'm recording.
All right.
Thanks for listening to Therapy Geeks. Find us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Podcast Addict, Deezer, Listen Notes, Stitcher, Podcast Index, and Buzzsprout. Give us a like or a follow or a subscription, whatever your podcast app allows. Thanks for listening.